what made you interested in this particular story?
Well, it's right across the street. It's at the Washington, D.C. Convention Center, and we got a press release. Like we get many press releases every day, and I've been fascinated by libraries my entire life. I practically grew up in my school library, my public library, and then eventually, as most students do, get to university and they spend all of their time in the library. And it's just my love for that has continued over the decades. And so when I saw that the ALA was coming right across the street, I thought, we should maybe do a story about that.
What's the attraction for you of libraries?
The attention to detail. Producers are very type A people. They like to make sure that everything is perfect, and librarians, I feel a kinship to them because there's lots of attention to detail, and so and it's also you get to work in a certain degree of with a certain degree of independence. I know that there are very hectic back offices in many libraries, but I enjoy the quietness that could come along. I'm fascinated by archives, and it's from what I've been told, it's a very lonely duty. So
You mentioned that you had once pursued a library degree.
yeah, for about a month and a half I did. It was an MLIS program at Queens College, and there's so many wonderful private libraries around New York City. I was up in New York at the time, and I thought, boy, I'd love to try to get into archiving, and how do I do that? And obviously you have to have a degree. They prefer people who have degrees. And so I enrolled, and I was having a great time, but this position here at NPR popped up, and I couldn't turn it down. Yeah, I'd previously been with the company. I mean, I had taken a little, breather just to find out what other things were out there, and so I came back, and here I am.
They made you an offer you couldn't refuse.
Offer I couldn't refuse. The bright lights of radio, trumped the solemn halls of Queens College.
So you also, during the interview, you made a confession. If you could go into that a little bit.
I checked out a book 5 years ago from the MLK Library, the main branch here in D.C., and I got my library card that day, checked out the book. I forgot to say what the book was, actually. It was a autobiography by Hoagy Carmichael called The Stardust Road, and it was written in jazz speak, and it was completely incomprehensible. I didn't even finish it because it was just ridiculous. But I never took it back, even though we're right down the street. It's just right down the street, and I'm gonna take it back this week. It's just all these librarians across the street. I feel so guilty.
Now, Camila, you mentioned you could cut a deal with Jenny Cooper of the D.C. libraries.
Well, I gave him Jenny's name, and I said I would probably give her a call and see if they want the book back. That's what's important, and maybe she'll be able to help him. I also told him about the fines for food program that libraries do, and maybe he ought to take he said he was going to take a couple of cans of soup, and maybe that'll help him. Chunky soup, yes.
That sounds good, actually.
That's so typical male.
Yeah. So tell me about your equipment. What do you do when you record these interviews? What equipment do you use?
We use digital equipment. It's a program called Dalit, and it is this is basically what it looks like, and we just press record here and press play, and it's recording, and then we open up a microphone and start talking into it. It's pretty simple, and so all of our editing here at NPR is done digitally. We did away with reel-to-reel analog tape machines about 8 years ago.
So speaking of archiving, what do you do with those analog tapes?
Those analog tapes, they're made by Ampex Corporation. We have a reference librarian, and we have many reference librarians, actually. We have reference librarians, broadcast librarians, and the broadcast librarians take those old tapes. There is something called the sticky shed syndrome, and it happens with old Ampex reel-to-reel tapes. They made it with a certain kind of material, so it degrades over the years. It becomes sticky if you don't play it, you know, over time. And if you put it into spool it through a reel-to-reel machine, I believe it's iron oxide, though I'm not 100% sure, begins to just peel off, and it gums up the tape machine. So what the librarians have to do is they have to bake it. They have to they literally take the tapes, which are kept by the archives at University of Maryland. This deal that we struck, and so they order them. They put them in an oven. They bake them for a couple of hours, and then they're usable. And so we have teams of people right now getting all of this stuff from archives, baking the tape, and then transferring it onto CD or onto digital format, some other digital format.
How far back do these tapes go?
To the beginning of NPR.